31st Contact Part 4. Continuation of the 31st Contact Report from the trip with Sim Yaase on 17th of July 1975. Pages 425-458.
Today, the power of consciousness, knowledge, and wisdom and love are of utmost importance to be able to walk the path of evolution. In Emmanuel's time, however, it was different, for at that time the knowledge of Earth humans was in every respect still very much imprisoned in those things which can be recognized by the eye and heard by the ears. At that time, this ensured that the human being who saw and heard visible evidence became aware of his power of thought and thereby progressed evolutionarily. Today, however, Earth humans have emerged from this stage, have acquired greater reason and intellect, and have become very conscious of their power of thought. So evolution demands of them that they should also seize these powers and put them to useful use. But this can truly only be done by hard work of consciousness. This means that Earth humans now live in the evolutionary stage, since they must and can work out knowledge, truth, wisdom, and love for themselves through consciousness work without needing visible or audible proofs. But if a human being demands visible or audible proofs at this time, then it is obvious that in terms of consciousness, he or she has not yet fully climbed the level of the new age, and in certain things is still a slave to the old time. The present proofs of the earthly Aquarian age are furnished by human reason, intellect, and the infallible logic of truth. These, however, Earth humans with their adaptable form of thinking must recognize for themselves.
That is plain and clear.
It is very well explained, but now ask what interested you earlier regarding other worlds and life forms.
I'm interested to know if there are worlds and life forms in the universe that are roughly equivalent to earthly norms.
Parallels can be found everywhere. For example, there are also worlds that are very similar to Earth, and on which there are also human life forms with almost the same development as Earth humans. One such world is found in the galaxy Aratom, in the system NEB, and the world is called Cartag.
I find that gratifying, but I cannot do anything with those particulars. It is Spanish to me, so to speak.
Cartag is 8,008,000,000 light years from Earth, and the human beings living on this world are at war with each other. Their time is the time of nuclear use, and they are currently waging nuclear war.
And this is not being prevented by you?
It is not in our concerns to interfere there, because the system is under the control of a highly evolved life form that is trying to prevent disaster there. The Carthagian life forms, however, are at an important turning point in their evolution and at the end of their nuclear age. They are still destroying each other with nuclear bombs, but this will not last much longer. Foresight says that in less than 10 days, their war will be over, and they will join the decrees of the controlling intelligences.
So they are a little more evolved than Earth humans?
That is so. They take the final steps to pass through the barrier of unreason.
That is gratifying.
Certainly, but they had to go the way of their evolution, and interference in this from outside is rarely advisable.
So that means that through this non-intervention by far more highly developed intelligences, which would nevertheless have been given the means in their hands, countless life forms, in this case human beings, are killed, isn't it?
That is so, certainly. Interventions may only be made when discernible catastrophes of galactic or intergalactic magnitude loom.
Then that means that by the inhabitants of a world it can be completely destroyed and annihilated, unless whole far-reaching systems, or even parts of the galaxy are endangered by it?
You recognize the facts very well. Every life form must follow the path of its own evolution, even if it leads in some manner to self-destruction.
That sounds a bit crude and perhaps even barbaric. But it makes sense to me, because it is a law that is also anchored in nature. What degenerates negatively will be destroyed by itself if the law is not followed, because it cannot endanger the good life by doing so.
That is correct. You know these laws very well. Only by following these laws can life be ensured. It is a wicked and false humanism when degenerate life is forcibly kept alive without expedient instruction in the form that it may become still degenerate further. Elimination is the only correct observance of the laws of conservation. You know this as the death that fallible life forms bring on themselves through coercion. The human beings also know the death penalty when an offense against the laws is committed in degeneracy, which is unfortunately wrong. Earth humans unfortunately do not understand and recognize the meaning of these laws. Therefore, they indulge in a false humanism and in a false execution of sentences. That this is so, you will experience again in the month of September when on your homeworld innumerable human beings will revolt in false humanism, however correctly, against several death sentences passed. The condemned will be innocent of the charges against them, and from this point of view will have to suffer death innocently. But they are guilty on many other counts, and are also guilty of murder. Consequently, either way, elimination by banishment would be justified. But the death penalty will be carried out and ordered by powers who are also in need of elimination, for they are guilty of 1,000-fold murder. Elimination in a rational and truly humane form never means the infliction and execution of a death penalty, but a measure in the form of banishment for a fixed term or for life, depending on the gravity of the crime, and so on. Elimination, in the total sense of the word, does not mean destruction, annihilation, killing, eradication, etc., as is unfortunately often understood by Earth humans, because the value of the word, coming from the Latin language, means that something is put over a threshold, or that something is removed. It means that something is removed from a smaller or larger complex because it brings harm or because it is insufficient, faulty or superfluous. Consequently, it must be eliminated, sidelined, or moved to another place, etc., so that it can be treated separately and, if possible, changed or transformed into what is correct. Earth humans also see it this manner, as can be seen from their dictionaries and language books, although in the end, they still consider eliminating any human beings, which unfortunately extends in this respect to the death penalty and its application. But that is not in the actual sense of the term value.
I don't understand what you are actually talking about. Obviously, it is a political intrigue by some lousy dictator. I mean, regarding those who are sentenced to death. Regarding your last comment, everything is clear to me.
You have got it, because the event will take place in that country you call Spain.
So the arch-crook and political murderer, Generalissimo Francesco Franco?
He has killed or had killed a number of human beings himself, for political military reasons, and is as guilty as those whom he will have condemned to death. I think you know what that is about.
I know this scoundrel personally from Spain. Although I could only talk to him for a few minutes through an interpreter, I really don't have a good opinion of him. To me, he is the bigger scoundrel than Shah and Shah Reza Mohammad Pahlavi of Persia, who lives unjustly to his glory, or Indira Gandhi, who is selfish, and some others who savor their might. I have met some of them myself and know who and what they really are.
You should not speak like that, even though your words are true. Such statements can be interpreted very unfavorably to you by Earth humans. They are still insufficiently developed in their knowledge and judgment to be able to understand your words.
I know, but still I had to say it, and I think it would only be good if Sim Ya-se would also convey this conversation to me later.
We will comply with your request, but not without I explaining the following. The laws of nature seem very harsh and inhuman to the still ignorant Earth human being. but they are absolutely perfect and logical in their nature and never need revision. At the present time, the human beings of Earth cry out for humanism, but they do not understand the meaning of their cry and of the word humanism. He or she believes that if they create or preserve the punishment of death, they are thereby doing a good work and showing themselves as humane. But this is by no means so, for by inflicting the penalty of actual total elimination, they become indifferent, unhumane, and commit a crime against the laws of the creation, against themselves, against the guilty, and against their whole environment. And this, because they do not replace the penalty of death by banishment, and do not grant the fallible the possibility of error recognition and its correction, as well as of conscious evolution. The death penalty of degenerate human life forms on Earth is still often considered the only lawful manner to protect the healthy and good life forms and to satisfy human laws. But this is wrong and totally contrary to the law of creation. But whoever sees it differently is either religiously biased or otherwise misguided. Earth humans of the present time would very well be able to apply the natural laws of elimination in the form of an expedient and time-appropriate as well as evolution-promoting and error-inhibiting banishment for degenerated human life forms in the form of humane humanity if they finally became aware of their reason and intellect and were willing to think. But bestiality still prevails in Earth humans, and his or her humanism is only an evil false show. Outwardly and in public, he or she cries out for humanity, but in his or her innermost being, they are still barbarous and very immature. The Earth human being deceives himself or herself and cries out in offense for vindication when he or she is reproached for their merely feigned humanism, which they often display publicly through demonstrations. This humanism, however, is nothing but a sham, a lie, and a deception. The Earth human being cries out indignantly when accused of this lie and deception of merely feigned humanism, for they don't want to acknowledge or see the truth. He or she speaks of peace and love and doesn't know what it is all about, just as he or she doesn't know what humanism is all about. He or she speaks great words and believes himself or herself justified by them, but they kill without hesitation when they believe themselves to be in danger, or they kill without hesitation on an order. And once he or she has killed, all his or her good intentions quickly vanish, and the slumbering bestiality within him or her breaks through with tremendous violence. Earth humans have experienced this again and again up to the present day. Just think of the wars and revolutions of modern times. Where can real humanism still be found? Or does he or she perhaps think that terror and criminal acts of violence, bombings, religious wars such as in Ireland and Palestine, assassinations, and many other horrible things are humane? Or does he or she perhaps think of humanity when he or she goes out into the streets and demonstrates, even if this may be done peacefully and without murder and manslaughter? Nowhere is humanity to be found, also not in a peaceful demonstration. Everything is only lies and deceit, malicious deception and self-importance with the sense of wanting to make oneself better than the human beings of the earth really are. But this is only because he or she has not yet perceived himself or herself, and consequently still lies to himself or herself. If he or she really wanted to practice self-knowledge and act in humanity, he or she would take hold of the spiritual teaching in order to finally find the truth and try to act accordingly. The consequence of this would be that the peoples would depose their governments and replace them with spiritual leaders. Through Earth humans, then, who would know, rule and honor the truth and the natural and creational laws, whereby they would govern the earth and all human beings unselfishly and in correct form. But chaos still prevails on Earth, and so also the punishment of total elimination of life. I have already said that Earth humans are already capable of correctly carrying out the punishment of the elimination of their time according to time-given and evolutionary banishment, if only they would become aware of reason and intellect. Nature herself would give him or her a recognizable example to create the necessary laws and carry out their application. On your Earth, too, there are various places where degenerate animals are forced into seclusion, into an isolation where they can no longer indulge in their degeneracy. So where this is possible, nature acts accordingly in order not to have to kill. Earth humans are offered the same possibilities, even more so than is possible for nature, because the human being's lack of understanding has restricted their freedom. In your oceans, you have large islands which you can usefully employ for the banishing elimination of degenerates. Create certain zones from these islands and deport the degenerates there for a time or, if necessary, for the duration of their lives. In this manner, these elements will be eliminated from your ranks without you having to apply the penalty of death. However, in doing so, separate female and male life forms from each other on different islands, so that they cannot see each other during the rest of their lives and also cannot reproduce. But give them all the necessary means to ensure the evolution of the spirit and consciousness. However, secure everything to such an extent that never a human being thus eliminated can ever return to society unauthorized. Also do not provide them with technical aids, but provides for them only in respect of health and food and the necessary means of spiritual and consciousness evolution. On the whole, however, let them work for themselves on their islands so that they have to earn their living by the work of their hands. You should only give them the bare necessities, then you will do the correct thing.
Something similar to this was once declared by Arahat Athersata, or Simyasai. However, I believe I know that this meets with resistance on Earth, for in their false humanism, human beings are not yet able to recognize the logical and the good.
Nevertheless, they will have to learn it sooner than they expect. But I also know that a great deal of pain and hardship will be connected with this development. But let us leave that for now. Let us transmit to the world Kartag, for you shall know it.
After the hyperleap.
What you see there is now Kartag. Now go with Simyase. She will show you the world up close.
On Kartag with Simyase.
I thought you told me that the inhabitants of this world here were somewhat more advanced than Earth humans. I don't see any planes or anything. If they are throwing nukes at each other, they must have some, right?
You are wrong. Their flying apparatuses do not meet the standards of terrestrial aircraft because they are already beamship-like. They also do not drop their death projectiles from their flying apparatus, but shoot them up into space with rockets and then steer them back down towards the enemy. The rockets are similar to those used on Earth to shoot up satellites. Only their technology and propulsion forces are fundamentally different from those on the Earth. But now see the city ahead and look here on the screen. A bomb is falling high up there and it will destroy the city ahead. It is not very dangerous for the people of the city because they are all already deep underground in their safety city.
Aha, now I see the thing. Actually, quite a small thing.
Sure, but it holds 1,000 deaths.
Can we get a little closer? I want to photograph the thing when it blows up.
You can do that from here, too. We are 35 kilometers from the city here, and it is also still dangerous here. As soon as the projectile is exploded, we have to leave very quickly.
Like you human beings, the fireworks, now it's going to die. This is gigantic.
I can just snap 2 pictures. As if by a giant's fist, the beamship is suddenly hurled away, while Simyase reaches into her apparatus with lightning speed. Good going, Simyase has the ship under control. Good child, that was almost missing. That effect, that is fabulous.
Excuse me, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
It's good, I have digested it. That was huge.
These nuclear projectiles are extremely dangerous and much more powerful than the ones you have on Earth.
I noticed that. But look down there now. The damn thing is still growing. It is just madness to let go of such powers.
Sure, it is very bad, but look here on the screen now.
What is this?
This is an atomic projectile. Apparently, it is one that was shot up from the city that was just destroyed. But as you can see, it is out of control and shooting out into open space.
If the city is now broken, then they cannot steer that thing after all.
Sure, that's why we have to destroy it. Otherwise, it will fall on a star somewhere or on another world and maybe cause a catastrophe.
How are you going to blow that thing up or otherwise destroy it?
Father might do that from his spacecraft. I want to show you.
Like a lightning-fast projectile, our beam ships shoot up, and already I see the gigant spaceship coming towards us at breakneck speed. Not far from the spaceship, Simyase now stops, and we float just like that in space. It just seems crazy to me that we are not falling down to the world we are floating above.
Look there. Father has already located the projectile himself and will destroy it. What you see there on the right is an energy emitter, or an energy gun, as I am sure you would say. High-grade energy is being emitted there, compressed into a block by another form of energy and directed at the atomic projectile. See now.
I got it already, I was just able to get a photo of the launch. Man, girl, this is fantastic. The energy is actually balling up into a block.
Sure, that's what I told you.
But where is the bomb now? I cannot see it.
It has already escaped very far. Look here on the screen. It is already 400 kilometers away now.
Fabulous, that thing's got quite a tooth on it. Can I maybe photograph the explosion from here?
Sure, even better than the world below. You can do it directly through the windows without the device. Attention, the explosion is about to happen. You can watch it from this window.
Ah, I have got it. This is a fantastic spectacle. I don't understand one thing, though. Why could you only see the explosion for a few seconds? On the world below, a huge mushroom grew up and spread. But here only the explosion took place, and everything was over in seconds.
You were watching very carefully. The planet is surrounded by different atmospheric layers, etc. In these, the mushroom cloud is able to spread and grow high, as you say. Here in free space, however, there are no such conducting layers, which is why every energy immediately fizzles out if its concentration is not controlled. The energy used by my father was controlled, and so it was able to sustain itself. But the released energy of the explosion was not subject to any guidance or control, and so only the power of the elements became visible. That is, the momentarily released energy was visible, but it immediately dissipated into empty space with tremendous speed. Therefore, you were able to observe the atomic fire only during a few seconds.
I didn't know that, but I understand completely.
It's about time.
Let's go then. Where are we going to leap to?
We want to take you to the galaxy Beberes, to the world next in the system Kraz.
Where is that, and what's interesting there?
It is 9,380 million light-years from Earth. This galaxy was in very early times a favorite destination of many races who became proficient in space travel. There are many planets there, which you on Earth call primordial worlds, and which are inhabited by many animal forms. Often these animals are very gigantic and of unusually large growth. They exceed all normal standards of like animals on other primordial worlds in the universe. And this very fact attracted very many space races to these worlds. Even today this is so.
So you really mean that there are worlds there that look like Earth must have looked many millions of years ago?
Sure, very many such worlds exist there.
What kind of animals are there? When I fumble around in ancient Earth history, I come across dinosaurs and dinosaur birds. You also talked about gigantic animals. Are they perhaps these cute little animals?
Sure, that's what you call those animals.
Girl, I think that's great. Then I want to get a close look at one of those little animals. Maybe I can do shake hands with a special form of them. What do you think?
You are funny.
Why is that? I think I have to have a close look at the toys if you are going to give me the opportunity. I cannot let such an opportunity pass me by.
They are gigantic animals and they can be very dangerous.
Still, I would like to pat one of these little animals on the tail just once.
You would really do that?
Why wouldn't I? If you give me the chance, you will see for yourself. Besides, I've got my pocket artillery with me, and especially this one hardly resists anything. If one of those little dinosaurs is determined to put me on its menu, I will blow its little brains out.
Your fearlessness frightens me, and I recognize in you that you mean what you say very seriously, even if you laugh.
Do you really think I am playing with such things?
No, I know you mean your words very seriously. But often you are a bit strange with your humor, and so it is not always easy to tell when you are joking and when you are serious with your words. I always have to orient myself to your thoughts when you speak like that. You would actually dare to approach these gigantic animals. Sure, you have your gun with you and you could kill the dinosaurs with your heavy equipment, but it...
Girl, that's not an implement, that's a .44 Magnum revolver.
Sure, that's what you call it in your language. But listen now, you could really kill the Saurians with that, because you can do it very well with such weapons. But it is simply not possible for us to walk in the world anywhere, as much as I would like to concede this to you. We have to shield our ship from all view for a variety of reasons.
Do human beings also live there?
Sure, but they are not life forms brought forth by these worlds. On primordial worlds, there are no human life forms yet, because these usually only come into being at much later times. We are not aware of any primeval world that is inhabited by dinosaurs and human life forms at the same time.
I didn't know that. But as you say, human beings still live there on Neighbor. Is this an exception to the rule?
No, because those life forms were transplanted there, but come on now. Let's get carried up into the dome. Father is probably expecting us.
Go ahead, I cannot wait.
I would be surprised if that was not the case with you. The human beings on Neighbor no longer correspond to the actual evolved life forms of this species, for they are feral and degenerate. In the course of several millennia, they have evolved into wild beings, as was also once the case on Earth. On the world Neighbor, the reason is that two different human races from two different galaxies had established research bases on the planet and lived there during many years and explored this world. As on Earth, they built pyramids and were thus protected by solid walls from the hostile and rampant environment. However, due to a cosmic catastrophe, one day the homeworld of one race was destroyed, and so the human beings living on Neighbor could not go back. The homeworld of the second race fell to an unknown deadly epidemic, and all life forms were destroyed by it. So the human beings of the second race stationed on Neighbor also found no way back and decided to stay on the planet. In the tropical humid climate, all their technological devices were slowly destroyed and rotted away over time. When they noticed the beginning damage, it was already too late to fight the decay. Most important parts were already destroyed, and they found no possibility to repair or replace them. The human beings had to watch this decay bitterly and could only hope that another space race would soon appear and save them. But this was not so, and it was not until nearly 3,000 years later highly developed life forms appeared again on Neber. During this long wait, the space travelers stationed there died. Their descendants, however, slowly became savage and primitive and slowly adapted consciously and physically to the savage and barbaric world. They reverted to savage primitive humans whose descendants still live on Neber today.
Fabulous. But something doesn't make sense to me. You say that human beings devolved into primal human beings.